I am Marcus James Dixon with Gold Derby, and we are here today with Paris Hilton, executive producer and star of Paris in Love on Peacock. Paris, I'd love to know more about where the idea for the show came from and what made you and Carter, your fiance at the time, decide to chronicle your lives and in the big lead up to your wedding day.
Well, I had just signed my deal with Warner Brothers for my new production company, Slivington Manor Entertainment. And we were just talking about all the different projects and ideas. And they said, well, are you guys getting married soon? And kind of were asking us about that. So it was just Carter and I going back and forth talking about it. And I thought about it. And I just felt with my documentary, This is Paris, it just ended in a way that where my life was just completely different, and I just wanted my fans to see that I found my happily ever after.
And what makes this series different than some of your previous experiences with reality shows and with the documentary? There's no cows this time, for starters.
Yeah, it's definitely different than anything I've ever done before because with my other shows, I was playing a character. I was having a lot of fun with it. I obviously was not at home. I was, traveling all over. So this was different because it was here at home in LA with my family. And this is the first time we've all done something together. And also just planning a wedding for the first time. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to capture all that.
And Carter mentioned in one episode that he doesn't necessarily like the limelight. He likes watching you on the red carpet while he's behind the red carpet. So was it hard to convince him, hey, we're going to bring cameras into our home and film everything?
Definitely, it was very new to him. He's, a serious entrepreneur, and he also comes from a town of 1,000 people, very, small town boy, and is just not used to the cameras. But he knew that it was something important to me, and he loves me very much. But yeah, it did take some convincing to do.
You probably had thousands of hours of footage over these months. How did you decide what to show and what not to show? Because, I mean, not everything can make it.
Well, definitely not everything made it on camera because it was just a lot of footage, especially for the wedding because it was a 3-day wedding and there was just so many incredible and romantic and magical parts that it probably would have been like 10 episodes at least.
Mm.
So yeah, but we basically kept everything in. We just really wanted to show the story and my family and everything that was happening.
And you are an executive producer on the show. Can you talk about being involved in the creative process, behind the scenes, in addition to in front of the camera?
Well, it was just filming my life. So basically, just trying to figure out my schedule since I'm constantly traveling and my schedule is out of control since I'm doing so many different projects. So it was really just about figuring out, which parts we were going to shoot and where we were going to bring the camera crew because it was a lot of travel. But I just chose the most important parts and since it's called Paris in Love and it was about planning a wedding, that was definitely important just to get all of those moments, since there is a lot that goes into planning a wedding.
Hmm. Looking back, do you think you were too stressed out or not stressed out enough in the lead up to the wedding?
I think I was a pretty chill bride. Like I've seen a lot of bridezillas and people who get very stressed out. So I think in that way that I was chilled, but it was a little stressful just, dealing with my mom and Carter because sometimes they would have, different decisions on things. And I was just kind of like sitting back and just like letting them both plan everything. So that made it easier on the planning side for me.
And you and your mother, Kathy, had a complete journey on this show, particularly after she watched your documentary, This is Paris. You two ended together in such a good place. Did you feel like you got to know your mom, even better because of this show?
Definitely, for the past 2 decades, I've been on a plane traveling for over 250 days out of the year. So during the show is actually the most time that we've got to spend together in years and years. So we just had so many bonding moments, and yeah, it was really difficult to just talk about, everything that happened to me as a teenager, because it was something that was just so painful and traumatic. Going to these schools and the abuse that I suffered, and it was something that was just so painful to talk about that I just never even brought it up after. So when I finally did, reveal this in my documentary, it was such a shock to my mother, and it was obviously very painful for her to hear. But just going through Paris in Love and actually talking about it and facing all of that has just been so healing for both of us. And then with my mother and I going to Washington, D.C. together and speaking on Capitol Hill, and just all the impact that we're making on the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act, I'm just so proud of all the impact work that I've done, and just making a huge difference and trying to get this passed on a federal level. So it will be illegal, everything that happened back to me and so many others. So it can't happen to any more children. So
Mm.
it definitely made us closer than ever.
I think one of my favorite moments on the show is this very real moment between you and your brother Barron. You went to McDonald's. Yes, Paris Hilton goes to McDonald's, everyone. And then you went to this park where you used to go as kids, and you had just, it was such a relatable scene. Like anyone can see themselves in this moment. Can you talk about that at all?
Well, my brother and I are extremely close, and especially growing up in Los Angeles, it's really hard to trust people or open up to them. So I feel just lucky to have people like my brother and my sister. And since Nikki lives in New York, it's I don't get to see her in real life as often unless I travel over there or she comes here. So I just thought to call my brother first and just kind of like to feel those, you know, back in childhood vibes. And there was just no problems, no stress. And so I decided, let's just go to McDonald's, go to the park we used to go to when we were little. And yeah, it was just a really nice moment just to be able to talk with my brother and tell him, what was happening, and just be open with him because
Mhm.
he's just one of my best friends.
What advice do you know now at the end of this show that you wish you had given to yourself at the beginning of this show?
To not stress out as much during the wedding and just to live in the moment. And I think that would be my advice to any bride. Just, it's your day, enjoy it. Don't worry about what everyone else is thinking. Everyone's there for you. And I don't know, I felt like those 3 days were just, everything was happening so fast. And I
Mhm.
wish I would have just kind of like sat back and actually like enjoyed it more. Like I loved it, it was incredible, but also just thinking about just all the things that I was stressing about, which I shouldn't have, because it ended up being a magical fairy tale that I don't
Mhm.
dreamed of anymore.
Well, final question: when you do look back at the wedding, now that we're several months, away from it, what sticks out the most? Is it the actual ceremony, or is it the neon carnival, which I loved, by the way, or was it the reception? Is there one moment that you just go, oh, I'll never forget this specific thing?
Just so many incredible moments. Something very special to me was getting to have my wedding at my grandfather's old estate, because when he
Mm.
passed away a few years ago, obviously that was so heartbreaking, but also just ever since I was a little girl, it was always my dream to get married there. So, when we lost him, I was like, I'm never going to be able to do that now. So I was just so grateful that when my friends who purchased the new house offered for us to do our wedding there, that was just so special. And obviously, the Neon Carnival, I am such a kid at heart, and that's why I just thought renting out the Santa Monica Pier and throwing kind of like this neon carnival rave party with Diplo DJing and all of my friends dressed up in neon, and I was in my neon pink Barbie raver wedding gown.
Mhm.
It was just like a dream, and all my friends are still talking about it and just saying that was like the most epic wedding ever. So yeah, it was definitely something that I will cherish forever, that memories.
Are you still a kid at heart, or now that you're married, are you officially an adult? What do you think?
I'll always be a kid at heart, but Yeah, an adult slash kid.
Well, Paris, thank you so much for chatting with us. We'll see you at the end at the panel.
Thank you.